Well, I'd like to call the August board meeting of the Central School District to order. So, as we get this started, it says, "Welcome to the Central School District Board Meeting. Comments from the community are entertained during the time designated under communication public comments. If you wish to speak to the board, please fill out a comment card and turn it into the board secretary or the board chair at the beginning of the meeting. Speakers' comments in this forum are limited to 3 minutes, but the board welcomes additional information in writing. Personnel laws prohibit the board from hearing public complaints about an individual in an open meeting. All complaints must go through the board's approved process as outlined in Board Policy KL. This form may be found on our website or by calling the district office. Typically, a speaker's comments is taken under advisement to allow time for the board to review an issue. However, the board chair or other board members may ask a speaker for additional information or may convey to the speaker some information that addresses their comment. Please note on the speaker card if you would like to receive follow-up communication, and if so, what avenue is preferred. And thank you again for your attendance at this meeting of the Central School Board." So, we're down to adoption of the agenda.
We just have one addition to our business dealing with, last time we talked about the modulars that are at Ash Creek, so we just have an amendment to it, and Cecil will speak to that once we get to that section. So that is the one addition that we did have today.
Okay. Do we got to adopt the budget, or we should just go on?
Adopt the budget.
Or adopt the agenda? We'll just keep going.
Keep moving.
Do you have any communications cards?
I do not.
Okay,
Good.
let's see. That gets us down to 4.2 and it says cease.
The superintendent's report, I'm supposed to get a break. Attached in your report is that detailed financial report, so that is the colored sheets of paper, or the links at the bottom of my item that say 2018 revenue budget to actual and expense budget to actual. So again, these are not only unaudited numbers at this point, they are unadjusted numbers. We continue to look at grant funds to make sure things were posted correctly. In some cases, we may find expenditures that really should have been in the general fund, or we might find expenses in the general fund that belonged in grant funds. So pretty much these numbers are fluid at this time as we start our year-end review and get ready for our auditors in 3 weeks. But the overall variances are about where we want them to be, plus or minus 5% of budget. And in your information in the packet, it explains a couple of those line items that I wanted to bring to your attention, and I will take any questions. Hearing none. I said hearing none, that's true. Expecting none, I did not say.
So, explain the property tax revenue thing.
Sure. In the property tax, we anticipate, let's see if I can bring up my numbers here. So we get, the property taxes in the general fund are based on our Measure 5, Measure 50 dollar limits. We get those property taxes in, we record them as just sort of revenue to our general fund, and then that amount is adjusted in the subsequent year. So our state school fund is a formula which takes what we deserve to get minus our local revenue, which is property taxes, and then it gives a state school fund. Next year, they'll go back to the look back, and they will say, oh, you reported that you thought you were going to collect this, you collected more, next year next May, that will be subtracted from our general fund,
Right.
from our state school.
But I guess I was looking more at, so we guessed at 5.5, came in at 6. We had already guessed for next year, and I don't remember now. I'm just wondering, are we gonna be running behind as the ramp goes up, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, right, so we are, what I'll look at this year, when we get our information from we'll get an imposed amount from the state, or from the counties. And when we do that, I do have the option to go in and tell ODE, whoops, I want to project more in local revenue, meaning I'll get less state school fund this year, and it smooths out that look back a little. I have done that in a couple years prior to smooth out the look back. If we feel confident that collection rates stay the same, because of course that's the problem with property taxes. They can impose them all they want, but if people don't pay them, they won't give them to us. So, but looking at the last couple of years, we've had real healthy collection rates. Assuming that would stay the same, we can make that adjustment in the current year.
And then having to get caught up on the expenses side here.
Well, I'll take questions later.
I thought you were way off until I realized you hadn't booked any of the contingency stuff.
Right,
Which you do
so
all at millions of dollars.
the nice thing about contingencies, if we don't spend them, then so when we look at our actual expenses as a percentage of what we budgeted, we're sure to look at that line that says total prior to reserves, because that will be the amount that we budgeted to actually spend versus what we spent. And does not include all those contingencies, which we hopefully did not spend, or we transferred up to the regular budget.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Anyone else with questions? So my second report for you this evening is our quarterly risk analysis. And I think I mentioned in the comments that while last year we took a different approach to reporting property damage as far as school bus accidents. And this year, with a renewed emphasis on that and noticing things, and our new transportation director, we have actually reduced the number of incidents. However, there are some larger claims that didn't cause damage to our buses, but were liability issues where we actually caused damage to other vehicles. And so those dollars, auto liability, is a bit higher. Brian has implemented some additional training. And so we are looking at that. And then workers' comp was pretty considerable this year. And we all hear people talk about behaviors, difficult behaviors in classrooms, and we are finding more incidences of our general ed kids with behaviors that lead to employee injuries. Most of those aren't serious. They're reported here in a lot of cases, but we have had a couple of what I call freak accidents, things that nobody was really being particularly unsafe, and yet we had an injury. And in speaking to my fellow business managers last week in Bend, it's a system-wide issue, this issue of poor behaviors by students or poor control of adults of children behavior causing injuries and incidents. So something our risk management partners, our insurance company is working on. We're looking at things we need to do, ways to train our adults to be able to handle that. So, and we are, I sat down this week, we're really rethinking training for our safety committees. We'll be doing a lot better grassroots level of investigation of these kind of things when they happen. What could we have prevented? What do we need to do so? So hopefully we'll get those numbers down for next year.
So is the staff getting hurt restraining a student, or I'm not sure I know.
Oh, sometimes they get things dropped on, kids will drop something on them. There's been instances where employees have tripped over kids, have been struck by things, struck directly by students, just lots of different behaviors. And again, we have a lot of training. We have personal protective equipment that we employ in our special ed classrooms. We're getting some of these in our general ed classrooms now, and that's what's causing us a lot of concern. Those people aren't as prepared to deal with behaviors that might result in injury, so we're working on that.
As we're looking at the workers' comp things, understanding that we probably have a fair percentage of them that are dealing with the high-risk kids. Of the others, are we seeing repeat of, improper lifting and stuff like that, so that we're still looking at the other stuff too?
Yeah, we had, last couple of years really noticed an increase in slips, trips, and falls. So lifting, we haven't had a lot of incidents. The slips, trips, and falls is one that gets us. And there are quite a few. In fact, what I call 2 of these freak accidents really were that, just people falling. And so we do have training on that. We added just this past year to our annual training that all employees take.
Okay.
So again, safety committees will be a great resource once they're trained to really investigate these accidents as they happen in their buildings, to come back and say, yeah, we could prevent that one, and start talking to everyone about what happens. So get a little more training, a little more awareness. Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
That's all I have.
Do you want to talk about the bus now, or are we doing it later?
We'll do that in your business agenda.
Okay. All right, so we're up to, it says board reports, upcoming activities. We have a retreat on the 20th of this month
4 p.m.
here.
Yes.
Where are they going to do negotiations?
We will be in a different room while they continue negotiations.
Okay, all right. So
But
4
maybe
o'clock,
we'll be done.
4 o'clock we'll be here. The next board meeting is on the September the 10th at 6:30. And oh yay, the first day of school for parents to get some relief is September 5th. And so,
And for the record, I won't be here for the retreat.
Okay.
we are at the consent agenda. And you're going to say anything about the consent agenda?
Again, this is just second and final reading of the policies that we had first reading last time. And then, like I said, we know that this is going to be worked throughout the year. So you'll see in the business section as well, additional first readings. I want to acknowledge right now Adriana, Director Mann and Director Klein for really working, and will continue to work throughout the year in trying to make sure that our policies are up to date. Again, this is the work that was originally started with the OSBA review. And so the ones that, and again, as we said, most of the ones that are in the consent agenda are deletions because they are old, and a handful that are required by law that I went through last time. And then like I said, I will go into a little bit more detail in the first readings of the next group of policies that we need to move forward with.
Okay.
Just a request that you can either take or throw back at me. I appreciated having the list of the
Yep,
policies and the
where we are.
dates and that sort of stuff. Is it possible to just add a two-word comment.
A description?
Yeah,
Okay.
just, not necessarily of the policy, but of what the action is. Is this a modification? Is this a deletion? Is this
Okay.
an addition?
Yep, we
Just
can
so
do
get
that.
some sense.
I'll make
from
that
it.
note and add that to the document. We need a motion for the consent agenda.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
A motion to accept the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Director Klein. And I do have a question. I don't see the personnel recommendations.
We don't have any at this point for this month.
Okay, never mind. That's why they're not there. So, with no further questions, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. And so, we need to talk about an amendment and a bus lease and a calendar. So we're basically down to part 6.
Yes, I have just included, there's no attachment for you, but last month when we accepted the bids for modern building system for the Ash Creek Modular, and your notes here say included a proposal for 0% turnkey project management. That's supposed to be, it actually included a proposal for a 7% cost for turnkey project management. We thought, working with all the subcontractors, electrical, plumbing, getting all the excavation done, getting the concrete poured, a lot of that we might be able to handle that. We have since received a retirement request from Dave Dodson, our longtime maintenance supervisor. So instead of having Dave manage a major project between now and January, February, we're actually having him spend a lot of time helping us create documentation and systems of all the things he knows about this building and every building that we own and everything that we've done to those buildings in the last 20 years. So I am asking within our budget if I can get an additional $13,000 amendment to that, which would cover that project management cost. So modern building systems, for the experts of this kind of thing anyway, will actually manage the project.
So the motion, so that brings the total up to 189.
Correct.
Do I read this?
Correct.
But that's still within the appropriate.
It is within the appropriate amount, and it still includes room for our permits and the furnishings and things, yeah.
Somebody has to make a motion to this item.
I make a motion that we approve the amendment to the Ash Creek portable classroom purchase for an estimated total of $189,444.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend
Purchase.
and add in 13,000 for project management. So, any questions? No? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next.
And it's time for our bus replacement. Once again, back in 2016, we adopted, actually 2015, adopted a fleet condition and replacement plan. And we have identified 2 buses which are ready to be replaced under that. These continue to be our propane buses. We continue to have favorable leasing terms on these. We can get a 7-year lease on these buses that continue. We do get the reimbursement from the state on those. So it makes it a really good deal for us to be able to do this. we are also finding we have extremely good records for maintenance. The maintenance on these things is very easy. One of our 2 bus mechanics, our lead bus mechanic, left us earlier this year for a job in the private sector. We replaced him with a young mechanic from Salem who was a little nervous, had not seen a propane bus, and just raves about them now. He's going back and telling his old boss they need to get them because they're so easy to maintain. So we do have a little bit of a price increase, which we expected, but our interest rates are sort of bumping up near the top where we thought. Rising interest rates are good because we're making more money on our investments, but they're bad when we go to lease equipment. So the current effective rate of this proposed lease is 3.95%. I'm going to have to readjust the 10-year plan basically to be able to plan ahead a little bit more as long as we have those rising interest rates. But this will, within our budget, get us a 78-passenger route bus, a 48-passenger special route bus, and keep us up to date on our fleet replacement plan that you adopted.
And so where does this put us? This is the third year.
This is our 3rd year, right?
So and have we done 2 buses every year?
Yes.
Okay.
They let us have one early because we had a little incident.
Yeah, one year we didn't quite wait till fall to get it. We got one in the spring, and they didn't start charging us till July when
They've been really good to work with.
they've been, yeah, it's been a great opportunity to get this done. Included is a suggested motion so we can get those buses rolling this way.
So, do I hear a motion?
Is it our turn again?
Yeah, it is. I've moved to enter into lease purchase agreement with Santander Bank as presented to replace 2 school buses in accordance with the 2015 fleet replacement plan.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Darcy and seconded by Dawn. Do we have any more discussion?
How much do we save a year on fuel if the propane instead of diesel?
Boy, I am budgeting over, and we're still have a lot of diesel buses running, obviously. But we are budgeting $50,000 less for fuel this year than we did last year. I don't know that that's all necessarily due to those 6 buses, but it's definitely due to our ability to control those costs and some other things where I think we used to budget a little high and we'd always have some left over, so we're cutting that back quite a bit. But
How many total buses do we have
we have
that we run regularly?
30, we have 24 buses, 24, 25 buses.
A ways to go.
We have a few more buses. We have to keep going with this plan. It's a 10-year plan. The only thing that might help us is the state. I mentioned before, I think the state is getting some money from Volkswagen as a settlement for their diesel emissions scandal. And that money, the Oregon Attorney General earmarked that money to go towards replacement of old diesel equipment on the road. And they have gone through the process now where Oregon Department of Education has identified school districts with equipment that ODE would like to see replaced with this money. So they basically come to us and said, you have a couple buses that we want you to get off the road. So if you agree to get those buses off the road, we will actually give you Volkswagen money to pay for them. So we're not quite there yet. I don't know exactly which buses those are, and I don't know all the details, but that is working its way through ODE, and we're pretty close to finding out if we can take a little bit of this money that we have planned over the next 10 years and actually have it.
So would the plan be then, when we got that money, to get maybe 4 buses instead of just 2?
That would be Mr. Winchester's plan.
Okay.
That would not be my plan. My plan is to keep spending the money that we've
Yeah.
spent. Save a year, but, you know,
Yep.
1 year I wouldn't have to add the lease to the amount we planned, but we'll see. We'll find out exactly what's coming and when it's coming, and then we'll make a recommendation to alter that plan.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
And we need to keep a couple of diesel buses just for trips, right? Long
We-
distance.
Yeah, that, we actually can take these propane buses to a lot of our trips, Portland area, for example, but yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely have those diesel buses on our longer trips. But we're finding spots. I say they may have taken one of them to Ashland last year just to see how that went, but I'm not sure. I'll have Brian report that to you next time he shows up for you.
So all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
I appreciate that.
Now it's calendar time.
So you will see attached in your packet, the district calendar that we would like for you to adopt. I'm going to highlight a few pieces. I want to first publicly thank the committee. The committee was a mix of district staff as well as representation, licensed and classified from all 5 schools, as well as union representation. So it was a really good mix of staff who to be honest, in 2 meetings built this calendar, and then we sent it out per the union contracts to have both unions review it with their teams before bringing to you. So I want to publicly thank the administration and the staff that were part of that process. So one of the key themes you can see as you look at the calendar that we talked about was more consistency of time. It's not so many when we do have to have breaks, that we were really intentional to try and keep many weeks and not have as many breaks where we can affect that, because some of those we do not have the ability to change. But there were some differences to that. So one of the key things that you can see is we made because of the way the winter break falls and the actual holidays are later, the staff, because last year, or this past year, 17-18, we only had, after Thanksgiving, we only had 9 days of instruction. So we have doubled that. And so the staff is just excited to be able to have more consistent days in a row, to be able to continue the instruction with our students moving forward. You also see that we have built in 7 professional development days. That has been one of the key requests as I came in, to be able to build those pieces. I think it's important for the work that we need to continue to move forward with. So as an example, all staff will be heading back, and I mean all staff that is licensed and classified, for 3 days of professional development as we begin the school year. And then we have built in multiple days. October 12th is a in-service state day, but there are other days that we have built in that will allow us some flexibility to have additional professional development with our staff. And that could be, whether it be building driven or district driven. We will continue to have those conversations with both unions as we develop a plan together in what that looks like. Focus right now, I think Cease alluded to it, really our key focuses for this year is culture and climate. You're going to hear us talk a lot about positive behavior intervention support, so really on the behavioral side, as well as a focus on literacy. Those have been the key 3 that have been brought to our attention from the leadership in the unions and throughout the staffs. So again, you'll see that as we go through this year. One of the other key things is, because of that shift with the 3 professional development days on the front side, the work days shift a little bit. So actually our first day of school is Wednesday, which will be a full day. And we will over-communicate that, because we do know that most Wednesdays are half days. But because of the work that we would like to be able to do with our staff, that's going to shift that a little bit. So that is a change that parents will see there as well. So
None of the kids go to school on Tuesday.
correct. So what ends up happening is Tuesday actually is our second work day with our staff, whether in their classrooms or in the building, preparing for the students to come the next day. The only one last piece that, and you'll see up in the corner, because we do want to post this, get this posted on the website as quickly as tomorrow morning. We are still in negotiations, and so you will see some designated snow days that we are still in conversation with the unions about. And so there could be minor changes because of when and where we designate snow days. So again, we are wanting you to move forward in the adoption of this calendar, but also knowing that the snow days may look different as we finish negotiations with both the classified and the licensed staff. So now I would open up to any questions anyone might have.
So the 5th is all students, it's not going to be like in years past where it's the freshmen go first?
Nope, that will still be. So again, I believe it's freshmen will go on Wednesday, and then everyone will go on Thursday. I believe it's freshmen and ninth graders and sixth graders, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. I'm looking at my team back there. And a lot of that is articulated by the building principals with information going out to parents right now. We also do the elementaries. The first day we'll have, part of the first day is with kindergarten, and the same thing on the second day. So again, there's some pieces that we have had, some of those that we have done in the past that we will continue to have. But the actual, quote, first day of school when we will have students in the buildings is Wednesday, and then everyone will be there on Thursday. And again, our principals are communicating that out in their letters that I know they're working on and getting pretty close to sending out here.
I move we adopt the calendar.
Motion to adopt the calendar. Do I hear a second?
Second. Second.
And Christina makes the second. Any other questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. So now you're going to talk about goals and objectives.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about this. This is a big step for us within the school district. So I'm very excited to just share the goals finally with the public. We have done some great work, so I'm going to just give a little bit of history of the district goals of how we have gotten here, and then we'll open up to any questions, and then I will share the goals. So when I first started in September with the entire staff, I asked, as we started our first day together, what their dreams were for our students, families, staff, and the community. From that data that we collected, we worked to narrow down information. So again, it's a lot of qualitative or lots of language because there were stickies, and so we worked to start to narrow what words were repeated, were there key themes that we were seeing from within those dreams activity that we did. So administration really started to work with that. Once we had narrowed down each area tied to, again, students, families, our staff, and the community, we had the actual building leadership teams come in. So administration did a little bit of work, and then we asked every single one of the 5 schools building leadership teams to come in, review, and then add or start to really narrow down the definitions and the key areas of focus. And so once we did that with the building leadership teams, I asked our administrative team to again take another review of it, start to make minor changes. Again, we're trying to narrow down and get really specific on what our focuses were. At that point, I know I shared with you all in I think it was mid-spring at one of our retreats of here's where we were at, and at that point you all had shared some changes that you would like to see, and so we noted those and went back to, again, the building administration and district administration teams, had them look at it. And then at that point, I requested our building administration that their leadership team needed to go get feedback from the entire staff. So again, it is very important for me that, yes, we have building principals that are leading the work, but we also have building leadership that need to help lead the work. And so that our final process really was having the building leadership staff present and share to the entire staff to get feedback. That came to me in late May. I had an administrative retreat in June We took one last look, made a couple minor tweaks, and so we are here. And I'm going to just take a minute to read all 4 of our goals that we will, and as you look at the adoption, this is for 5 years. We need to be very intentional in the work that we're going to do, and I believe the areas of focus, we will be able to accomplish a lot if we stay focused with this. This is the first step, and the next step, you're going to hear me talk about the strategic plan and the accountability that we need to develop and begin to implement within the school district. So the 4 goals are as follows. The first goal is student growth and achievement. And the vision is every student is engaged, supported, challenged, and prepared as a whole child with the skills and character to achieve and be successful in school, career, college, and community. Our second goal is family involvement. Central School District 13J fosters a relationship where every family is actively involved in their child's education and feels welcome, supported, safe, and valued. Our third goal is community partnership. Partners engage in collaboration with Central School District to cultivate student success for a safe, healthy, prosperous, and inclusive community. And then finally, our fourth goal is staff leadership and continuous improvement. And the vision is staff engage in student-centered decision-making, problem-solving, professional development, focused on continuous improvement and growth, where shared purpose, teamwork, respect, and trust drive decisions. I am very proud of the entire school district, the work that we put in last year, the work you all did in looking at this and really saying this is about our staff and really them buying into it. So I'm very excited to request a motion to approve these 4 goals, really from the 2018 to 2023 school year.
Can I just say so move, or do you want me to just repeat everything you just said?
You can do as you would like.
I would move that we accept the goals as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Central School District 13J 2018 to 23 strategic goals and visions. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
So can we get these engraved in brass plaques on every school?
I'm going to look at Cease on that one. I think we will. I think there will be the next steps as we build the strategic plan. There will be some publications that we will want to develop, and we have looked at a couple different models as we move in that direction. So you will start to see this in many spots, websites, and different information that we start to share with our community. So I'm pretty excited to be able to share this with Western Oregon, both of our city councils. It's an important step for us as we start to align and work together and within our community. So I'm very, very pleased with everyone within the school district for the work they did in putting this together. So now we really begin.
You're still up.
I'm still up, yes. Thank you. I have a few things tonight, don't I? So this is, I am requesting the adoption of the organizational chart. I want to walk through a few changes because as I looked at the organizational chart, I needed to make sure that the titles aligned with the work. And so I'm going to walk through just a couple title changes because I think it's important. Let me start by saying there is no financial impact with the changes. This is just in alignment of where the work is and what they do within their roles. I just wanted to begin with that. Obviously, the first 2 that you're going to see, we did have the addition of Charmin Ensminger. She is moving into the Equity Access and Instructional Technology Director. And then you also have Jason Clark, who has moved into the Program Planning and Project Management Director. So you'll see that designated on the organizational chart. I also have 3 changes to our leadership staff to better reflect specifically their areas of work. Julie Hamann, who Her new title will be Director of Student Services. I think it's important, it used to be special programs, but her department not only supports special education, but she also supports programming that are in the general education of students. So 504, she works a lot with instruction on teaching and learning. She is going to be some of the leads as we start to develop interventions, really starting on the behavioral side, but also in the work that they have done in special education, because there are great interventions that we could be using with general ed students as well. And so she's going to be beginning to lead that work. She's already leading, as we've stated, positive behavior intervention supports. And then you're going to hear us start to talk about what's called multi-tiered systems of support. That is interventions focusing on students that may need a little bit extra support, and then some that will need additional potential higher emphasis on more individualized supports that may not be a special education student. And so we're really going to work towards that. So with this change, because she really is doing student services, it is a more inclusive to the work that she is doing across the school district. So that's the first change. The second change is with Ms. Kunst in the becoming or being the Director of Business and Operations. Her main areas are those two areas. So when you think of business, accounting, budget, finance, and then on the operations side, she is responsible for custodial, food services, maintenance, transportation. So again, it aligns to more inclusive of what her work actually is within the school district. And then the last is Dr. Dory Vickery, whose title will become Director of Teaching and Learning, because her main areas in the district are curriculum instruction, assessment, which is tied directly into both what we do instructionally in the classroom. She's responsible for talented and gifted, and she will help lead the expanded learning opportunity, which is the 21st Century Grant, which we are expanding learning to before and after school, and that will be connected to what we are doing during the school day. So again, it's more time for us to be able to do both teaching and learning and instruction with our students, but also enrichment activities as well, because we know that that's important for students. And she will still do the federal programs, which are, again, part of that. The federal program encompasses what we do in instruction, both in teaching and learning. And again, more inclusive to the work she has within her department. You're going to see also with Jason Clark, part of the reason his title is Program Planning and Project Management. There are reports and pieces in the federal programs that Jason in his project management, Dr. Vickery has been doing a lot of that. He will support that, so we can get a few things and have more of aligned plans moving forward within the district. And then because he has such great knowledge in one of the key components in the 21st century expanded learning opportunity is really focusing on dropout prevention, which Mr. Clark has a great background in. So we are going to, he's also some of the work that he will do as we begin that will be in those areas as well. So I am blessed to have an amazing leadership team. I think we have hired and brought in some of the most talented people. I've already seen them roll up their sleeves and have hard conversations and celebrate when we are seeing amazing things. I'm not going to share too much, but we've seen some tentative district report cards, which we're excited to share some great growth. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself because we're still working through making sure all those numbers match up and we have the correct information. So those are the major changes you see within the organizational chart. And again, no financial impact, just alignment to the work that we are doing and moving forward within the district.
I move to approve the 2018-19 Central School District 13J organizational chart.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the organizational chart. Does anybody have any questions? I want to thank everybody that helped work on this. I know it's been a long time. You guys have been looking at this a lot and figuring out how it would line up and on like. And with that, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Next.
And I'm gonna look, Ms. Heilman, the out-of-state trip. She's our representative tonight.
Oh.
Oh,
The team.
a team effort.
Good evening, I'm Julie Heilman.
I'm Antonio Martinez.
And we're representing the FFA application or request to go to out-of-state. Do you want to explain a little bit about what that is?
Please remember, you gotta speak loud.
So like I said, I'm Antonio. I'm the chapter vice president, and this year in November, my bad. We plan to go to Louisville, Indiana. No, that was previous. Indianapolis, Indiana. That was where it was held previously, to attend the National FFA Convention and Expo. It's a 6-day trip that we hope to do. There's currently 5 students that are ready to go.
And Lynn Thomas is going to go as a chaperone advisor, and potentially Abby. Not quite sure Abby who, but Abby as another adult.
Abby Lohman, our new agricultural teacher.
I was going to say it was the counselor, so perfect. Awesome. Anything else that you would want these guys to know about the wonderful opportunity?
I attended the state convention this year. That was my first time, and it was really a great experience. Loved it. Wouldn't trade it for anything else, and I'm super excited to go to the national convention.
How many kids, you said you had 5 that were ready?
5.
Ready to go, is that
Yeah.
how many will go, or are there other kids that are still?
5 that have been fundraising and did the deposit, and yeah.
So the funds are based on fundraising by the students.
Sure, time, right?
What does it cost? What does it cost for each student to go?
It's about $1,200-ish, and so we've done a few fundraisers right now, and so it's looking about $500 out of pocket-ish, $500-800, depending on how much we raised before we go.
So you're still going to the Louisville Slugger Museum or not?
I'm not totally sure.
I would say that that would be a copy pasting, unless is that they moved it during the summer.
Either that or a long drive.
I was gonna say that's quite a jaunt from
6 days, you have a lot of time to kill.
From Indianapolis.
Indianapolis down to Louisville.
I think it just- It's an option.
Yeah, well, traditionally they chapter will go into like Nashville and do events or see places down there, and then drive up to Indianapolis. But to cut costs, we're going straight into Indianapolis.
Cool.
If you guys timed this better, you could go to the Indy 500.
That's what some of the kids wanted to go and see the track.
Yeah.
Just thinking.
Well, cheaper to get into the track now than it is then.
On Memorial Day.
So, does anybody have any other questions? So do I hear a motion to approve the out-of-state trip for the FFA to the National Convention?
I move to approve the trip as presented.
So we have a motion, and I think a second is the same corner. With no further questions, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Go have a good time.
Thank you.
I ended up in Talladega, a week after the race. So,
Policy.
those two gonna speak, or are you gonna speak?
I took the lead on this because I'm doing my best to keep it succinct as we go through this, because I know all of you have the opportunity to read them because they are online, and I just want to reiterate, so we have put, we will put in the sections where there is policy updates, the policy update PDF. We think that's important as we move forward, to track when adoptions are taking place, when we have first reading. So again, that will help us as we move forward in the future, to making sure that we're staying updated within our policies. So we have a handful, and I am going to spend a little bit of just a quick recap of why we're moving forward with some of these on first reading. Again, this is first reading, so we do not have to have a motion to approve. That will be when we move next time to the consent agenda for second and final reading. So the first policy we are looking at is policy IFD. It is course approval. And again, when we had the review by OSBA, there were different recommendations. Ones that were stating you are required to do this, and right now by state and federal law you don't have this in policy. Others were, this is highly recommended. And so we've been focusing on those two areas to start. And then, like I shared and they've shared with us, we have a couple hundred to go through of minor changes that they would like us to look at. I'm not sure we're going to make all of those, but we will start to look at those and then come forward with a plan for the rest. So this one is specifically looking at course approval. So this was a policy that's missing, and it was highly recommended. In the past, we do not have a policy for this. So the high school and really the middle school, there are the two, but there is some programming that could be tied to this, so it could encompass the elementary as well. This would allow for, instead of them coming to us, because again, programs and courses are day-to-day operational decisions. So this policy really would be that the principal would be the approval, but again, they will also have to be reviewed by either myself or designee. So that could be depending on if it is falling in Ms. Howman's area, she could be the designee. If it's tied to teaching and learning, it could be Dr. Vickery. If there's something that's tied to CEAS and the business, that's then CEAS may be the designee as we move forward with that. So then we can work at the building and district level. We will still keep the board informed, because I think it's important that you see the changes that we're doing both in programs and or courses. So that really is adding this policy, which allows the principal and then the superintendent or designee to make those decisions. The second one is policy IGAEC, anabolic steroids and performance-enhancing substances. So this again was a policy that was missing and highly recommended by OSBA. I think when you're talking about athletics, I think that is one thing that we are always having to pay attention to. And so this policy gives us a little bit of better understanding, definitions, and guidance of education, and that we will need to do this with our coaches every 4 years. And so if we adopt this policy, then we will work with the new athletic director at the high school, who is already building some amazing professional development for his coaches. And so this would be part of that, which we would have to do every 4 years. So I do believe, I think this is important. I've not seen any of this, and I've not heard that this is happening within our school district. But again, I think it's just good guidance as how we work through some of those. If something like that were to come up, it's really important that we get some training to our coaches every few years.
So this policy basically just says, don't do it. It doesn't talk about any kind of testing.
Correct. It literally is an education that, again, it is stating every 4 years. I think that's going to be a conversation with the building principal, both at the middle school and the high school, because we do have athletic programs in both of those, to how do we go about educating our coaches. Because I think there are students that come up and ask, hey, what is this? Have you heard of this? And so how do we answer and guide in the fact of turning them back probably most to their parents to have those conversations, but also then being able to, if we do get those, what types of responses do we have with our administration, the parents themselves as we move forward. So we'll work with the athletic directors. Again, if you approve this on second reading, we'll work with them to build a specific professional development for our coaches. The third one is policy GCQBA. It deals with copyrights and patents. Again, may not really affect us that much, but it is one of those missing and highly recommended. I think what's important, as I've shared, and part of why I believe I'm here and you hired me, is looking at different innovative approaches to support children in their education and growth. I am a big proponent in the development of the whole child, because I think that we need to move, especially in K-12 education, in that direction. And so this policy would be clear that any district proprietary rights to publication, so if we come up with something within our staff that all of a sudden is very successful and could be replicated, the district actually has the copyrights and the patents to that. I think that's important. I am coming from a previous school district where we had that and have a few documents that are in that type of copyright and patent area. I have used a tool actually with our staff, our administration that came from my previous district because of some of the things that they have done. And so again, I think it's important that we have that in place should we have or be innovative and come up with some things, and I want Central to get credit for it. That's very important to me. Again, if it's made up of possibly our staff outside the day as well as us, then we would have to work through where that credit would go. And again, I'm probably not going to happen that much, but I think it's an important policy to have as we continue to move forward. So that's specific to that. And then again, that was one that was highly recommended by OSBA. The next policy GC, is titled Licensed Staff Position. Again, a policy that is missing and highly recommended per OSBA. And this is allowing, or a policy that we can establish positions of licensed staff that are necessary to carry out our instructional goals, or I would say our district strategic goals. And this includes positions that really are licensed, but they may not have the capacity or do classroom type. So right now, you guys have heard us talk about our teachers on special assignment at the elementary. They are not in the classroom, but they are a licensed staff doing different work. We have been doing this. We just didn't have a policy that says, yes, we are allowing you to hire and move in that direction when financially and we think it is in the best interest of our students and our staff to be able to move in that direction. I want to be clear that anytime that we're talking about, whether it is with classified or on the licensed staff, looking at positions that may not fit the normal licensed position or classified position, that we work very closely with the unions to make sure that we have clear communication and what that might look like, and then the supports that we would move forward with that. And then we have last two, policy GBLA, that is disclosure information. This is a policy that was missing, and it is required by both state and federal statute and administrative rule. This authorizes the district that we may disclose information about former employees' performance to prospective employers. The important part about this policy is it gives us clarity on what is not exempt from disclosure. So there are, if you read that policy, there are a few things that we are not allowed to not share with other districts or other employers that may have had a previous, that may be looking at one of our employees or previous employees. So this is a great policy to help us on the human resource side. It makes it clear what we do need to report, and then there are items that we can then have a little bit more flexibility from that perspective. So this is an important policy that we do need to put into place. And then finally, the last one, which you all have been doing, policy FC deals with capital construction. And again, we are required by law to have this, and it just gives the board the authorities to submit to voters the ability to go after a bond and to then move forward with potentially to build or renovate buildings. So we already have this in place, but we didn't actually have it in policy. So we're going to put it into policy because it is required by law to have that policy in place.
See, this is probably why our bond didn't pass.
Unfortunately, I'm sure that's it. You've never had the authority to do it.
So that, unless there are questions, like I said, this is first reading, so we do not have to take a vote at this point. Again, I want to thank, because we've spent several hours and a couple days now of going over and moving forward with these policies. So I do want to thank Adriana, Director Mann, and Director Klein for their work on this.
We used to always move to accept these on first reading, and then when we actually move to accept them is the second reading.
You don't have to,
Oh.
but if that's something that you guys would like to continue, but
I-
to some degree, first reading is just
I
for
just love
information.
making first readings.
You do?
It's fine. I just noticed that it was a suggested action in here. I knew we had done it before.
Yes.
I will trust your judgment that we're not required to.
I did go on to check right now when she said that, and we don't have to.
So we're down to the school board and superintendent working agreement.
So, again, this is just, as we did last year, it is our agreement and how we work together. We will, as I know we talked about this and reviewed it in our spring retreat to see if there were any changes, and as we reviewed it, we all felt that it was a pretty good document for us to continue to work from. And just for those in the audience, it really focuses on what's the job description of what the board does, what is our operational agreements in our meetings, how do we communicate with each other, whether we have specific issues or emergency types of situations, what that communication looks like. The process of my annual evaluation is documented in there, as well as just expectations by the board of the superintendent, and then expectations of the superintendent of the board. So with that, we will get a clean copy and we will sign tonight unless anyone has any changes or additions to it.
This is identical to last year?
Yes. Yes.
We went through it, what, about 3 times?
We went through it several times.
Huh?
Yes.
At least.
Yes.
So, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve with signatures the 2018-19 board and superintendent working agreements.
I'll second that.
So been moved and seconded to approve with signatures the 2018-19 board and superintendent working agreements. Does anybody have any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. We're down to comments by individual board members.
It's been a quiet as
Been a quiet summer recess.
Are you guys awake back there?
Quiet is not bad.
Quiet's not bad. Anything else? Jerry, words of wisdom.
Well, I don't have a whole lot of words of wisdom, but it's gonna be, I know as, when I was a teacher, that long about this time of year, the juices start to flow again, you start thinking about, you forget about the bad stuff from the year before, and this is gonna be a great year, and I think most of the staff is getting to that point, so should be a good year.
All right. And as always, we want to thank all of you guys that spend year round here working on different stuff and keep things going all the time. And I want to thank everybody that's been involved in negotiations over here and the like, and especially working on the policies. That's huge. And the only other things we have item for future meetings is we will be looking at the facilities committee to get them back together and look at a bond in the future. And so that'll be coming up shortly. And we are set to go into executive
We are.
session. So at this time, we are closing this meeting and we'll reconvene in, let's take a 10-minute break and then be in executive session.